The phone rang at 6:12 a.m. on my birthday, and in that moment I knew something was wrong. Not because it rang early, not because my bones already ache the way they do when rain is coming, but because my husband, Walter, stopped breathing. I was still in bed. The light outside was pale, the kind of light that makes everything look honest. Walter sat up too fast, too sharp, like a man who had been waiting for that sound. "Don't answer it," he said. His voice cracked. I turned and looked at him. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer. The phone rang again. Longer this time. More insistent. I picked it up. "Hello," I said. Silence. Then breathing. Not old breathing. Young. Nervous. Female. "Is this Nana May?" the voice asked. "Yes," I said slowly. "Who's calling?" Another pause. Then, "My name is Lila." Walter stood up, bare feet on cold wood. His face drained of color. "Please," the woman whispered into the phone, "don't hang up. I don't know how else to do this." My heart began to knock against my ribs. "Do what?" I asked. She swallowed. "Tell you that we're coming today." I laughed. A small laugh. Polite. "Well," I said, "that depends on who he is." Silence again. Then, "My husband, and our children, and their children." The room tilted. I gripped the phone tighter. "I'm sorry," I said. "You must have the wrong number." "I don't," she replied. And then she said his name. Walter. I looked at him. He wouldn't look back. "I'm married to Walter," she said. "Have been for 30 years. The phone slipped from my hand. Hit the carpet. I didn't faint. I didn't scream. I sat down slowly on the bed. Walter finally spoke. "Nana," he said. I raised my hand. "Don't," I whispered. The phone was still live. I picked it up again. "My husband," I said carefully, "has been married to me for 52 years. "I know," Lila replied. "And that was worse." "How could you know?" I asked. "Because," she said softly, "he told us about you." The room went silent. The clock kept ticking. Tick, tick, tick. "What exactly did he tell you?" I asked. "That you were sickly," she said. "That you refused to leave the house. That you didn't love him anymore." Walter dropped into the chair. His hands shook. I smiled. A strange smile. "He said I was already gone," she continued. "That it was kinder to let you fade." I closed my eyes. 52 years. 3 children. 2 miscarriages. 1 mortgage. 1 life. "I see," I said. There was a pause. Then she spoke again. "It's your birthday today," she said. "He said it would be a good time." "For what?" I asked. "To finally meet," she replied. "All of us." My chest tightened. "You're coming here?" I asked. "Yes." "With children?" I asked. "Yes." "And grandchildren?" I whispered. "Yes." I looked at Walter. His eyes were wet. "Did you plan this?" I asked him. He nodded once. Like a coward. "I wanted it to be honest," he said. Finally, I laughed. This time it sounded ugly. "You chose my birthday," I said. "I thought," he began. "No," I snapped. "You didn't think." I turned back to the phone. "What time?" I asked Lila. 6, she said. "We'll bring a cake." "A cake? For my birthday? From my husband's other wife." "How thoughtful," I said. She hesitated. "You don't sound angry," she said. "I'm not," I replied. That was the truth. Anger hadn't arrived yet. Something colder had. "Please don't worry," I added gently. "You're welcome." Walter's head snapped up. "What?" he said. I smiled at him. Wide. "Come. Bring everyone," I told her. "All of them." She exhaled with relief. "Thank you," she said. The call ended. Walter stood up. "You're taking this very well," he said. I walked to the mirror. Looked at my face. 74 years old. Wrinkles like road maps. Eyes still sharp. "Oh, Walter," I said quietly. "I've been preparing for this longer than you think." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I opened the drawer. Pulled out a small box. Wrapped partial in silver paper. "Neat. Perfect." "What's that?" he asked. I held it behind my back. "A birthday gift," I said. "For you." His face relaxed. He smiled. The same smile that fooled me for decades. "I knew you'd understand," he said. I leaned in, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Oh, I do." Because inside that box was the truth he never thought I'd give him. At exactly 5:58 p.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't jump. I didn't flinch. I smoothed my dress. Blue. The one Walter always liked. The one he said made me look gentle. Gentle women survive longer. That's what my mother used to say. Walter hovered behind me, pacing like a trapped animal. Maybe we should postpone, he muttered. Everyone's tired. It's a long drive. We can. I turned slowly. Open the door, I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. He reached for the handle with trembling fingers. The door opened, and suddenly, my hallway was full of strangers wearing my husband's face. A tall man first, early 30s, same jaw as Walter, same eyes, clear as a photograph left in the sun too long. Behind him, a woman with nervous hands, pretty, careful smile, too young to look at me directly. Then children, 4 of them, 2 teenagers whispering, a little girl holding a balloon, and a boy who stared at Walter like he was meeting God. And behind them all, Lila. She stepped forward. She was smaller than I imagined. Brown hair pulled back too tightly. A face trained to apologize. Happy birthday, she said. She held out a cake. White frosting. Blue flowers. My favorite color. Walter inhaled sharply. I smiled. Come in, I said. They hesitated. I stepped aside. Please, I repeated. Your family. That word landed hard. They entered slowly. Shoes scuffed the rug I vacuumed that morning. The children stared at everything. At my photos. At my walls. At my life. One of the teenagers whispered, Dad, she looks normal. Normal. Walter snapped, enough. I caught Lila's eye. She looked ashamed. Or afraid. Or relieved. I couldn't tell yet. Everyone, Walter said loudly, clapping his hands. This is Nana May. They stared. Some nodded. One of the kids waved. I waved back. My name is Nana May, I said, clear and steady. I'm 74 years old. And today is my birthday. Silence. The little girl tugged on Lila's sleeve. Is she the grandma? She asked. Lila froze. Walter answered too fast. Yes, he said. She is. I smiled wider. Come sit, I said. I made food. We gathered around the table. My table. The one I polished every Sunday. Plates clinked. Chairs scraped. The tall man sat across from me. He stared. Hi, he said awkwardly. I'm Daniel. I nodded. I know, I said. His eyebrows lifted. You do? Yes, I replied. You're the first. Walter choked on his water. What? Daniel asked. You're the first child, I said. Aren't you? Lila's fork froze midair. Daniel's mouth fell open. Walter slammed his glass down. Nana. I counted, I said softly. Dates. Absences. Excuses. I leaned back. You were conceived during the year Walter told me he was helping his brother build a garage, I added. Daniel's face drained. That's true, he said slowly. Dad. Walter wouldn't look at him. Lila's voice shook. You knew, she asked me. I suspected, I said. For how long? She whispered. 30 years, I replied. The table went silent. The children stopped chewing. The clock ticked. Daniel swallowed. Then why didn't you say anything? I folded my napkin. Because I was waiting, I said. For what? Lila asked. I smiled. For today. Walter stood abruptly. This is getting inappropriate, he snapped. We should focus on celebrating Nana. I laughed. A short laugh. Oh, Walter, I said. This is the celebration. I stood, went to the cabinet, pulled out the small silver box, the one I showed him that morning. His shoulders stiffened. My heart beat slow, controlled. This, I said, holding it up, is my gift to my husband. The room leaned forward. Daniel frowned. What is it? He asked. Walter shook his head slightly at me. Don't, he mouthed. I placed the box on the table, right in front of him. Open it, I said. He hesitated. Lila whispered, Walter? He opened the lid. Inside, documents, photographs, letters, receipts. His breath hitched. What is this? He asked. Our life, I replied. All of it. He flipped through the papers. Marriage licenses, property deeds, a will, 2 wills. Daniel leaned in. Dad, what's that? Walter slammed the box shut. Private, he barked. I put my hand over his. Not anymore, I said. Lila stood. What's in the box? She demanded. I met her gaze. Proof, I said, that he lied to both of us. Walter's face reddened. Nana, stop, he hissed. Tell them, I said. Tell them what? Daniel asked. That you never divorced me, I continued. That your marriage to Lila was illegal. The room exploded. What? Lila cried. That's not possible, Daniel said. Walter shouted, she's confused. I pulled out a paper. Held it high. Certified copy, I said. Still valid. Lila staggered back. You said you were divorced, she whispered to Walter. I was going to fix it, he said. It just got complicated. 30 years complicated, she screamed. The children began to cry. The little girl hid under the table. Daniel stood. So you're telling me, he said slowly, my parents aren't legally married? I nodded. And that makes you, he looked at me, struggling. What? I stepped closer. I am still his wife, I said. By law. Walter collapsed into the chair. Lila covered her mouth. You ruined us, she whispered to me. I leaned down, close enough to smell her perfume. No, I said gently. He did. I straightened. And that's not all. Walter looked up sharply. What do you mean? He asked. I reached into the box again, pulled out a flash drive. This, I said, contains everything else. Daniel frowned. Everything else? I nodded. Bank accounts, hidden properties, and one confession. Walter lunged. Don't, he shouted. Too late. I pressed play on the laptop. His voice filled the room. If anything happens to Nana, everything will finally be simple. Silence. Cold. Deadly. Lila gasped. You said that, she asked. Walter stammered. I didn't mean. Daniel stepped back. You were waiting for her to die. Walter whispered. I was tired. I closed the laptop. My birthday wish, I said calmly, was to finally be seen. I picked up my purse. Dinner's over, I said. But the truth is just beginning. I walked toward the door. Behind me, a child screamed. A woman sobbed. And my husband called my name. Nana. I paused, turned back once, smiled. Make room, I said. You're all going to need it. I stepped outside, into the night, and behind me, the family he built on lies began to collapse. I didn't expect him to follow me into the night, but footsteps echoed behind me as I reached the end of the driveway. Not hurried, not angry, careful, measured, like someone approaching a wild animal. Nana May, a man's voice called. Please. I stopped. The porch light spilled across the lawn, cutting the darkness into pieces. I turned slowly. It was Daniel, Walter's first secret. He stood there with his hands open, palms out, like surrender. I just want to talk, he said. I studied him. Up close, the resemblance hurt more. Same slope of the nose. Same crease between the brows when he frowned. The face I woke up beside for 52 years. Younger. Untarnished. You should be inside, I said. They're not okay, he replied. None of us are. I nodded once. That's usually how truth arrives, I said. Messy. He swallowed. Can we sit? He asked. Just for a minute. I looked at the bench under the old fig tree. The one Walter never liked because it reminded him of his father. Fine, I said. We sat. The night insects hummed. Crickets. Moths tapping against light. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on knees. My whole life, he began. Dad told us you were fragile. I smiled faintly. They like that word, I said. Makes neglect sound gentle. He said you didn't want to see anyone, Daniel continued. That crowd's confused you. And now? I asked. And now I see a woman who invited strangers into her home and handed my father his own funeral, he said. A short laugh escaped me. That wasn't the funeral, I said softly. That was the announcement. He looked at me sharply. What announcement? I didn't answer. Instead, I asked, do you know why your father married your mother when he was already married to me? Daniel hesitated. He said he was lonely, he replied. That you checked out. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I was 39 again. Tired. Post-surgery scars still pink. Holding a cold cup of tea I forgot to drink. He married her because I survived, I said. Daniel stiffened. What do you mean? I was supposed to die, I continued calmly. Your father planned his second life because he believed the first one was ending. The fig leaves rustled. Daniel's voice dropped. Ending how? I took a breath. He convinced himself I was already gone, I said. Because it was easier than leaving me. Daniel frowned. Leaving you? Yes, I said. I was sick. Not dying, but sick enough to be inconvenient. I looked at him. You ever notice how men abandon women when illness arrives? I asked. They don't always leave physically. Sometimes they just duplicate. Daniel looked sick. You knew about us, he whispered. I knew about you, I corrected. Not the details. Not the birthdays. Not the names. I paused. But I knew there was someone. Why didn't you confront him? Daniel asked. I tilted my head. Why didn't you confront him when he disappeared for weeks at a time? I asked gently. Daniel winced. He said it was work. And he said the same to me, I replied. Silence stretched. Finally, Daniel asked the question that had been sitting between us like a bomb. Why stay? I looked up at the stars. Because the truth was ugly. Because I needed time, I said. Because women my age don't survive sudden collapses. Because leaving with nothing is still nothing. I looked at him. And because I wanted to see who he really was when the mask slipped. Daniel rubbed his face. My mother is devastated, he said. She thinks you did this to punish her. I laughed bitterly. I didn't punish her, I said. I freed her. He looked confused. How? By telling the truth, I replied. Even when it cuts. I stood slowly. My husband built 2 lives on 1 lie, I continued. Only one of us was always real. Daniel's voice cracked. So what happens now? I smiled. Now, I said. Now your father finds out what it feels like to be powerless. Daniel stood too. What did you mean inside, he asked, when you said that wasn't everything? I met his eyes. Because, I said, the box was only the first layer. He stiffened. What's the second? I leaned closer. There's a reason I waited until my birthday, I whispered. And there's a reason I let him bring all of you. Daniel's breath caught. What reason? I stepped back. You'll see, I said. Soon. Before he could ask more, the front door burst open. Lila stumbled out. Her face was streaked with tears. Walter followed, red-faced, shaking. Nana, he shouted. You think you've won? I turned, walked back toward them. Slow, deliberate. This isn't a game, I said. Walter jabbed a finger at me. You humiliated me in front of my children. Our children, I corrected. Legally. Lila sobbed. You ruined my family, she cried. I stepped closer to her, lowered my voice. No, I said. I revealed it. She shook her head violently. You stayed silent for 30 years, she screamed. You let me build a life. Yes, I replied. And tonight, you learned what kind of man helped you build it. She collapsed onto the steps. Daniel rushed to her. Walter grabbed my arm. Hard. Enough, he growled. You've had your show. I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. You should let go, I said calmly. Or what? He snapped. I smiled. Or the police report becomes public, I said. His grip loosened. What police report? He whispered. Daniel looked up sharply. Police, he echoed. I slipped my arm free. Oh, I said lightly. Didn't I mention? Walter's lips trembled. You wouldn't, he said. I stepped closer. Try me, I whispered. Lila stared at me. What report? She asked. I turned to her. The one I filed 12 years ago, I said. When your husband tried to change my will without my consent. Daniel's mouth fell open. You committed fraud, he asked his father. Walter shouted. I was protecting us. From me, I asked. He screamed. A raw animal sound. You were supposed to die, he yelled. You were supposed to make this easy. The night froze. Lila stared at him in horror. Daniel stepped back like he'd been slapped. You said you loved her, Lila whispered. Walter realized what he'd said. Too late. I nodded slowly. There it is, I said. The truth he rehearsed in silence. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone. There's more, I added. Walter lunged again. Stop, he screamed. I pressed a button. A message sent. To who? Daniel asked, voice shaking. I looked at them all. My lawyer, I said. And the bank. Walter collapsed to his knees. Lila screamed. Daniel whispered, What have you done? I looked up at the house, at the life I'd built. at the family he duplicated. I finally finished preparing, I said. I turned to leave again. This time no one followed. Behind me, the sound of something breaking echoed. Glass, or a man, or both. And as I walked into the dark, I thought, 30 years of silence had just begun to speak. The next morning, I woke up alone in the house I had already taken back. The bed was cold on Walter's side. Not empty. Cold. There's a difference. Empty suggests choice. Cold suggests exile. I lay still for a moment, listening. No humming from the bathroom. No cough. No shuffle of slippers. Just silence. The kind of silence that follows an explosion. I sat up slowly. My joints complained, but I welcomed the pain. Pain meant I was still here. Still breathing. Still inconvenient. I walked to the window. Lila's car was gone. The children too. Only Walter's sedan sat crooked in the driveway, like it didn't know whether it was welcome. I smiled faintly. Neither did he. Downstairs, the house smelled like old coffee and yesterday's cake. The cake sat untouched on the counter, blue flowers sagging, frosting cracked. My birthday cake. From the woman who slept with my husband for 30 years. I cut myself a slice anyway. Because I could. I was halfway through my coffee when the knock came. Not the doorbell. A knock. Firm. Professional. I already knew who it was. I opened the door. 2 men stood there. One in a gray suit. One in a uniform. Nana May, the man in the suit asked. That's me, I replied. I'm Mr. Halvorson, he said. Your attorney. I stepped aside. Right on time, I said. The officer nodded politely. Ma'am, he said. We need to speak with Walter Grant. He's upstairs, I said calmly. Second door on the left. The officer blinked. You're very composed, he said. I met his eyes. Sir, I replied. I've been married to a liar for over half a century. This is the calm after the storm. They went up. I sat back down. Finished my cake. I heard voices upstairs. Raised. Panicked. Then Walter shouting my name. Nana. What the hell is this? I didn't answer. I let the truth walk for me. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Walter burst into the kitchen. Hair uncombed. Eyes wild. What did you do? He demanded. I wiped my mouth. Good morning, I said. He pointed toward the stairs. There's a cop upstairs, he hissed. Yes, I said. I invited him. For what? He snapped. I leaned back in my chair. For the betrayal, I replied. He laughed. A sharp, cracked sound. You're being dramatic, he said. This is a misunderstanding. Is it? I asked. Mr. Halvorson entered behind him. Walter Grant, he said calmly. You are under investigation for attempted financial coercion, forgery, and elder exploitation. Walter spun around. What? He shouted. That's ridiculous. The officer stepped forward. Sir, he said, please lower your voice. Walter turned back to me. You did this, he said. You planned this. I nodded once. Yes, I said. I did. His face twisted. You stayed quiet for decades, he said. You let me live. I let you expose yourself, I corrected. Mr. Halvorson opened his briefcase. Over the last 12 years, he said, Mrs. Grant documented a pattern of behavior. Walter barked a laugh. Documented, he scoffed. She barely knows how to use a phone. I stood, walked to the drawer, pulled out a thick folder, slapped it on the table. Don't confuse silence with ignorance, I said. The officer raised an eyebrow. Walter's confidence faltered. What's in that? He asked. Every time you lied, I said. Every time you moved money. Every time you tried to erase me. Mr. Halvorson flipped through pages. Unauthorized withdrawals, he read aloud. Forged signatures. Witness statements. Walter staggered back. You were spying on me, he whispered. I tilted my head. I was surviving you, I said. The officer cleared his throat. Mr. Grant, he said, did you attempt to amend your wife's will while she was hospitalized in 2013? Walter's jaw clenched. No, he said. I slid a paper across the table. That's your signature, I said. Misspelled. You forgot the... The officer picked it up. Walter's face drained of color. That was a mistake, he stammered. I was under stress. You were under opportunity, I corrected. The officer nodded. Sir, he said, we'll need you to come with us. Walter turned to me. You'd put me in handcuffs, he asked. disbelief cracking his voice. On your birthday? I met his gaze. You put me in a grave, I said softly. I just didn't stay there. His shoulders collapsed. They escorted him out. I followed to the door. The neighbors watched from behind curtains. Good. Let them. As he passed me, he whispered, You destroyed my family. I leaned close. No, I whispered back. I exposed the betrayal you built it on. The door closed. The house exhaled. I sat down slowly. For the first time, my hands shook. Not from fear. From release. An hour later, my phone rang. Daniel. I answered. They took him, he said. Yes, I replied. My mother is inconsolable, he said. She feels like her whole life was a lie. I closed my eyes. It was, I said. So was mine. He was quiet. Then, he was moving money, Daniel said. Out of accounts we didn't know about. Yes, I said. Into accounts he thought I couldn't see. But you did. I always did. Daniel exhaled shakily. So what happens now? I looked around my kitchen. At the chair Walter used to sit in. At the space he no longer occupied. Now, I said, the consequences arrive. That afternoon the bank called. Then another. Then another. Accounts frozen. Assets reviewed. Trusts activated. Walter had thought he was clever. He had never considered patience as strategy. That evening, Lila arrived alone. No children. No cake. Her eyes were hollow. May I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She stood awkwardly in the living room. I didn't know, she said quickly. About the money. About the will. I know, I said. She swallowed. He promised me security, she whispered. A future. I nodded. He promised me forever, I replied. Men like him confuse promises with placeholders. She looked at me. You stayed, she said. Why? I studied her. Because I knew if I left, I said, he would win quietly. She sat. Her shoulders shook. What do I tell my children? She asked. I sat across from her. The truth, I said. That their father loved himself most. And that woman paid the price. She wiped her face. He always said you were weak, she said. I smiled. That's what men say when women don't scream, I replied. She looked at me differently then. Not as an enemy. As a mirror. When she left, the house was mine again. That night, I slept deeply. Dreamless. But peace never lasts. At 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A voice whispered, You think this is over? My blood ran cold. Who is this? I asked. A pause. Then, You took more than his freedom, the voice said. You took something that belongs to us. The line went dead. I sat up, heart pounding. Outside, a car engine started, and in the darkness I realized Walter hadn't been working alone. The next betrayal didn't arrive with sirens. It arrived with a smile. Morning light crept through my curtains like it was afraid of what it might reveal. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug I'd reheated twice without drinking. That phone call still echoed in my bones. You took something that belongs to us. Not him. Us. I'd lived long enough to know when a man was no longer acting alone. At 9:11 a.m., the knock came. 3 slow taps. Measured. Confident. I didn't rush. I adjusted my sweater. Smoothed my hair. I'd survived childbirth, surgeries, funerals, and 52 years of lies. I could survive another visitor. When I opened the door, the woman standing there was not who I expected. She was polished, mid-50s, tailored coat, pearls at her throat. She smiled like someone who already owned the room. Nana May, she said warmly. I'm Evelyn Carter. The name landed heavy. I'd heard it before. May I come in? She asked. I studied her face. Depends, I said. Are you here to threaten me or negotiate? Her smile widened. I like you already, she said. May I? I stepped aside. She walked in like she'd memorized the floor plan. She didn't look around. She already knew. You have a lovely home, she said. Walter always had good taste. There it was. I closed the door. Sit, I said. She sat, crossed her legs, relaxed. So, I said, what are you to my husband? She laughed lightly. Former business partner, she replied. Current beneficiary. My stomach tightened. Beneficiary of what? I asked. She tilted her head. You didn't know, she asked gently. I didn't answer. She reached into her purse, pulled out a folder, placed it on my table. Walter invested heavily, she said. Off the books. Offshore. Very clever. My fingers hovered over the folder. And you? I asked. I managed it, she said. Protected it. I opened the folder. Numbers. Accounts. My name was there. Misspelled. Again. He used you, I said. She nodded. He used everyone, she replied calmly. But I benefited. And now? I asked. And now, she said, you've disrupted things. I closed the folder. You're the voice on the phone, I said. She didn't deny it. You froze assets that weren't entirely yours, she said. That creates complications. I leaned back. Sounds like a you problem, I replied. Her eyes sharpened. You're old, she said flatly. This can still be resolved quietly. I smiled. Quietly is how I lost 30 years, I said. I'm not interested. She sighed. Walter promised us continuity, she said. You weren't supposed to intervene. There it was again. You weren't supposed to. I leaned forward. Tell me, I said softly, how many times did he plan my death? Her gaze flickered. Planned is a strong word, she said. Try again, I replied. She exhaled. He assumed time would do the work, she admitted. Illness. Age. And when it didn't? I asked. He panicked, she said. I nodded slowly. So he tried to erase me, I said. She didn't argue. What do you want? I asked. She clasped her hands. Sign a settlement, she said. Release claims. Let the offshore accounts remain untouched. And in return, I asked. You keep the house, she said. Your pension. Your dignity. I laughed. A deep laugh. It startled her. You think dignity is negotiable? I asked. She stood. You're being emotional, she snapped. No, I said quietly. I'm being precise. She leaned closer. You don't understand the forces involved, she warned. I met her stare. I raised 3 children, I said. I buried 2 parents. I survived a man who tried to replace me while I was still breathing. I understand force. She straightened. You'll regret this, she said. Maybe, I replied. But not alone. She walked to the door. Paused. One more thing, she said. Walter didn't just steal from you. I raised an eyebrow. He stole from his other family too, she added. My chest tightened. What do you mean? I asked. She turned. He promised Lila security that never existed, she said. That money was never meant for her children. The cruelty of it hit hard. He used them as camouflage, I whispered. Yes, she said. And now they're exposed. She left. The door closed softly. I sat there for a long time. Then my phone rang. Daniel. I need to see you, he said urgently. Now. We met at a small cafe. Neutral ground. His eyes were red. My mother knows, he said. About the money? I asked. Yes, he replied. About everything. He clenched his fists. He never planned to provide for us, he said. Did he? No, I replied. Daniel swallowed. He used us, he whispered. I nodded. He used all of us, I said. Just in different ways. He leaned forward. What do we do? He asked. I looked at him. Really looked. Not as my husband's sin, but as a man stripped of illusion. You tell the truth, I said. You protect your siblings. And you decide who you want to be without him. He nodded slowly. There's something else, he said. My stomach tightened. What? I asked. There's a third will, he said. I froze. A what? I whispered. A sealed document, he continued. Held by a private firm. I felt cold. What does it say? I asked. Daniel hesitated. It activates upon your death. The room tilted. And who benefits? I asked. Daniel's voice cracked. Not me, he said. Not my mother. And not you. The betrayal cut deeper than all the rest. Who? I asked. Daniel looked at me like he didn't want to speak. Someone named Evelyn Carter. The cafe noise faded. Everything narrowed. The woman. The smile. The threats. I stood slowly. Thank you, I said. Daniel reached for my hand. I'm sorry, he whispered. I squeezed his fingers. This isn't your sin, I said. I walked out. Into the street. Into clarity. That night I sat alone. Reviewed documents. Made calls. At midnight I recorded something. Not for court. For truth. I looked into my phone camera. My name is Nana May, I said. And if you're watching this, I paused. It means Walter Grant failed. I saved the file, encrypted it, scheduled it. Then I smiled, because the final confrontation wouldn't be loud. It would be undeniable. And somewhere across the city, Evelyn Carter believed she was winning. She wasn't. She just hadn't realized. I was no longer fighting for survival. I was fighting for legacy. The truth didn't come screaming. It crept in quietly, wearing a familiar face. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear. Because of clarity. At 74, you stop confusing the two. Fear makes your heart race. Clarity makes it steady. At 6:40 a.m., I poured myself tea and opened my old cedar chest. The one Walter never touched. He said it smelled like dust and memory. That was exactly why I kept it. Inside were letters, photographs, documents no one ever asked about. Because no one thought I mattered enough to ask. I pulled out a photo, black and white. Two women standing shoulder to shoulder outside a hospital. Young, smiling. One of them was me. The other. I stared until my breath shortened. Evelyn Carter. Not older Evelyn. Younger. Barefaced. My hand around her wrist like we were holding each other upright. I knew it, I whispered. The past rose up like it had been waiting. 37 years ago. I was 37 and afraid. Not of dying. Of disappearing. Walter had driven me to the hospital that morning and kissed my forehead like he was saying goodbye forever. You'll be fine, he said. But his eyes were already somewhere else. The ward smelled like antiseptic and fear. That's where I met Evelyn. She was sitting alone, hands folded, eyes hollow. You're Nana, she said softly. I blinked. Yes, I replied. Do we know each other? She hesitated. No, she said. But Walter talks about you. My stomach tightened. He does. I asked. She nodded. All the time, she said. He says you're strong. That should have warned me. She was waiting for the same surgeon. Different reason. We talked. About fear. About marriage. About what it feels like when a man begins packing his heart without telling you. I don't trust him, she said suddenly. Walter. I asked. She nodded. He thinks money solves everything, she said. But it doesn't stop rot. I remember laughing. I wish I could be that cynical, I said. She looked at me sadly. Give it time, she replied. We held hands when they wheeled us in. I survived. She survived. And then, life moved. Or so I thought. Back to now. My tea went cold. Evelyn hadn't just appeared in my life. She had been stitched into it. I flipped the photo over. A note in her handwriting. If anything happens to me, Nana will know. My chest tightened. What did you know, Evelyn? I whispered. The phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. You're quiet, Evelyn's voice said. That usually means people are thinking. You were at my surgery, I said. A pause. You remember, she replied. I do now, I said. Why didn't you? Another pause. I did, she admitted. I just hoped you wouldn't. I laughed bitterly. So this was personal, I said. Yes, she replied. And professional. Tell me the truth, I said. All of it. Silence. Then, Walter wasn't my first husband, she said. I sat down. He was my second mistake, she continued. He needed money, I said. Yes, she replied. And I needed leverage. You used each other, I said. We did, she agreed. And then, I asked. And then, she said, I learned he had you. I closed my eyes, and I learned he would do anything not to lose control. I opened my eyes. You were the third will, I said. Yes, she replied. And it activated when I died, I said. Yes. So you wanted me gone, I said. She exhaled. I wanted closure, she said. I laughed. By inheriting my erasure? I asked. By surviving, she said. I stood. You don't get to survive on my absence, I said. Her voice sharpened. You don't understand the machinery, she snapped. Oh, Evelyn, I said softly. I built the machine. She went silent. Walter wasn't clever, I continued. He was predictable. You were careful. But you underestimated memory. Her breath hitched. What are you saying? She asked. I walked to my desk, pulled out another folder. Do you remember signing as a witness? I asked. Silence. At the hospital, I continued. After surgery. A sharp inhale. That was decades ago, she said. Yes, I replied. And you validated my survival. She laughed nervously. That doesn't. It does, I interrupted. Because you authenticated my legal continuity. Silence again. You made me unkillable, I said. Her voice trembled. You wouldn't dare, she said. I already did, I replied. I hung up. 2 hours later, Daniel arrived. He looked older. Something's happening, he said. Lawyers are panicking. Yes, I said. Evelyn's firm just withdrew, he said. They're dissolving agreements. I nodded. She remembered, I said. Remembered what? He asked. That she tied herself to me, I replied. He stared. What does that mean? He asked. It means, I said, she can't inherit without incriminating herself. He sat heavily. So what happens now? I looked at the window. At the sky. Now, I said, the truth becomes public. That evening, my scheduled video released. Not just to lawyers. To everyone. My voice. Steady. My name is Nana May, I said on screen. I was married to a man who built multiple lives on lies. This is not revenge. This is record. Emails exploded. Calls. Messages from people I didn't know. Women. Widows. Names attached to patterns. Walter wasn't unique. He was typical. At 11:42 p.m., I received one final message. From Evelyn. You win. I typed back. No. I lived. I shut off my phone. Sat in the dark. And for the first time in decades, I felt untouchable. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, truth doesn't end stories. It only sharpens them. The world didn't explode. It fractured. That's how scandal really works. Not loud at first. Just cracks. Hairline fractures spreading through everything you thought was solid. I woke to my phone vibrating like it was alive. Messages. Missed calls. Voicemail stacked like unanswered prayers. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat at the edge of my bed and waited for the weight to settle. It always does. Outside, a news van idled across the street. Camera pointed at my house. A house that had finally learned how to tell the truth. I sighed. So, I whispered to the empty room, we've arrived. Downstairs, the kettle screamed. Too loud. Too sharp. Just like everything else now. When I reached the kitchen, Daniel was already there. He hadn't knocked. He looked wrecked. Hair uncombed. Eyes swollen. Hands shaking as he tried to pour coffee. You shouldn't be here, I said gently. I didn't know where else to go, he replied. I nodded. That's how this part begins, I said. Sit. He sat. I can't stop thinking about them, he said suddenly. The kids. My chest tightened. The little ones? I asked. Yes, he said. They don't understand why people are shouting our name on TV. I closed my eyes. Children always pay interest on debts they didn't take, I said. He rubbed his face. My mother hasn't left her room, he said. She keeps saying she ruined your life. I looked at him. She didn't, I said firmly. But she stayed, he argued. She built a family with him. So did I replied quietly. And neither of us knew the full cost until now. He looked at me then. Really looked. Do you hate her? He asked. I considered the question. No, I said slowly. I pity her. For what? He asked. For believing love meant secrecy, I replied. The kettle clicked off. Silence filled the room again. Then, Nana, Daniel said softly, people are asking questions. I know, I replied. They're calling you a hero, he said. I snorted. They'll call me a villain by sunset, I said. That's the rhythm. As if on cue, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Nana May. A woman's voice said briskly. This is Channel 7 News. I glanced at Daniel. He shook his head. Not today, I said. This is a matter of public interest, she pressed. So is my blood pressure, I replied and hung up. Daniel stared. You're not afraid, he asked. I poured tea. No, I said. I'm tired. There's a difference. At noon, Lila arrived. Unannounced. She stood at the doorway like she wasn't sure she deserved to cross the threshold. You don't have to let me in, she said quickly. I stepped aside. Come in, I said. She walked in slowly. Her eyes landed on Daniel. He stood. Mom, he said softly. She nodded. Then she looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I believed her. I know, I said. She sat, hands clenched. I never wanted this, she said. I wanted a family. So did I replied. Her lips trembled. He told me you were cold, she said, that you didn't feel things. I smiled sadly. That's what men say when women stop bleeding in front of them, I said. Daniel swallowed hard. Lila looked at him. I don't know who your father is anymore, she said. I leaned forward. You're allowed to mourn a version of someone that never existed, I said gently. Just don't let it erase you. Her eyes filled. What happens now, she asked. I didn't answer right away, because this was the moment. The one no courtroom could decide. Now, I said finally, we choose how much damage we allow the truth to do. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? He asked. I reached into my drawer, pulled out my phone. There are documents, I said. Interviews. Names. Lila stiffened. You could destroy him completely, she whispered. Yes, I said. I could. Daniel's voice shook. And if you don't? I looked at them, at the people collateralized by one man's hunger. Then I protect the innocent, I said, and let the guilty live with exposure. Lila cried openly now. He deserves punishment, she sobbed. Yes, I agreed, but not at the cost of children learning their names or weapons. Daniel exhaled shakily. I don't know if I could be that merciful, he said. I touched his hand. Mercy isn't softness, I said. It's restraint. The doorbell rang again. This time I knew who it was. My lawyer. And behind him, another woman. Older. Sharp eyes. Controlled posture. Evelyn Carter. The room went still. You have nerve, I said calmly. She nodded. So do you, she replied. Lila stood abruptly. You, she hissed. You knew. Evelyn met her gaze. I suspected, she said. Daniel stepped forward. You planned for her death, he said. Evelyn didn't deny it. I planned for inevitability, she said coolly. I laughed. That's what cowards call intention, I said. My lawyer cleared his throat. We're here to discuss resolution, he said. Evelyn looked at me. You released the final recording, she said. And everything ends. And if I don't? I asked. Her jaw tightened. Then the fallout will be expansive, she said. I stood, walked toward her, stopped inches away. Listen to me carefully, I said quietly. You do not frighten me. You do not control me. And you will never inherit my silence. The room vibrated with tension. Daniel whispered, Nana. I raised my hand. Evelyn, I said, you want survival. She nodded. I want truth, I continued. And truth costs. She studied me. Then, what do you want? She asked. I smiled. Public accountability, I said. Protection for the children. And your full testimony. Her eyes widened. That would destroy me, she said. Yes, I replied. That's the point. Silence. Then Evelyn laughed softly. You really are formidable, she said. I always was, I replied. You just met me late. She nodded slowly. I'll testify, she said. But when this is over, don't expect peace. I smiled sadly. Peace isn't the goal, I said. Releases. She left. My lawyer followed. The door closed. Lila sank into a chair. Daniel stared at me like he was seeing something holy and terrifying at once. You could end this, he said quietly. Right now. I nodded. Yes, I said. And will you, he asked. I looked out the window. At the cameras. At the watching world. I will, I said. But not today. They waited. Because, I continued, there's one more truth left. And as I said it, my phone buzzed. A notification. From the prison system. Walter Grant has requested a visit. I closed my eyes. The final confrontation had arrived. The prison smelled like bleach and regret. Those places always do. Not because they clean well, but because they try to erase what lingers. I walked through metal detectors with my back straight and my head high. Not because I was brave, because I was done bending. A guard escorted me down a narrow hallway. Doors clanged shut behind us like punctuation marks. This way, ma'am, he said. We stopped at a small room divided by thick glass. A phone hung on each side. And there he was, Walter Grant, my husband, my stranger. He looked smaller, not older, smaller. His shoulders curved inward like a man folding into himself. His hair, once so carefully combed, was uneven. His eyes darted when he saw me. Fear, not guilt. Fear. He picked up the phone. So did I. For a moment, we just stared at each other. 52 years condensed into silence. You came, he said finally. Yes, I replied. I wasn't sure you would, he said. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. His mouth twitched. You look strong, he said. I smiled faintly. You always notice too late, I replied. He swallowed. I need to explain, he said quickly, before it's all decided. I leaned back. You've had decades, I said. Start anywhere. He closed his eyes. When I met Lila, he began, I didn't plan for it to last. I raised an eyebrow. They never do, I said. She was young, he continued. She needed me. You liked that, I said. He nodded slowly. I did, he admitted. And Evelyn? I asked. His jaw tightened. She was useful, he said. The word hit harder than a slap. So were we, I replied. He flinched. I never meant to hurt you, he said. I laughed. Not loud. Just tired. Walter, I said gently. Intentions don't bleed. Actions do. He leaned forward. I loved you, he said desperately. I tilted my head. When? I asked. He opened his mouth. Closed it. I don't know, he whispered. That's the most honest thing you've said, I replied. He gripped the phone. I was scared, he said. Of getting old. Of being irrelevant. So you multiplied yourself, I said. Like a coward. His eyes filled. You don't understand what it's like to feel invisible, he snapped. I stared at him. Oh, I said quietly. I understand it intimately. He deflated. I didn't think you'd live this long, he admitted. The word sat between us. Heavy. Sharp. I nodded once. There it is, I said. Say it again. He shook his head. I thought time would take care of things, he whispered. You thought death would clean your mess, I replied. He didn't argue. I didn't want to kill you, he said quickly. I leaned closer to the glass. But you were comfortable with me dying, I said. He looked away. That was answer enough. Tell me about the third will, I said. He stiffened. That was Evelyn's idea, he said. Of course it was, I replied. She said it was insurance, he continued. If you passed, she'd stabilize everything. At my expense, I said. Yes, he whispered. I closed my eyes for a moment. When I opened them, I felt light. You know what the cruelest part is? I asked. He looked at me. You never needed to do any of this, I said. If you'd asked me for honesty, I might have walked away. His breath hitched. But you needed control, I continued. And control requires lies. Tears streamed down his face. I ruined everything, he sobbed. No, I corrected. You revealed yourself. He reached toward the glass instinctively. I'm sorry, he said. I looked at his hand, then back at his face. Apologies don't undo architecture, I said. He sagged. There's something else, he whispered. My stomach tightened. What? I asked. There was a moment, he said. Years ago. I waited. When you were sick, he continued. Evelyn suggested accelerating things. The room went cold. How? I asked calmly. Medication, he whispered. Dosage. My hands clenched. And did you? I asked. He sobbed. No, he said. I couldn't. I believed him. Which was worse? You thought about it, I said. Yes, he cried. And you stayed, I said. You tucked me in. Yes. I inhaled slowly. Then understand this, I said. The only reason you're alive is because you're weak. He stared. I don't hate you, I said. I outgrew you. The guard knocked lightly. 5 minutes, he said. Walter panicked. Please, he begged. Tell them not to release the video. I stood. That depends, I said. On what? He asked. I leaned down. On whether you tell the truth, I said. Fully. Publicly. He nodded frantically. I will, he said. Anything. I straightened. Good, I replied. Because silence no longer protects you. I hung up the phone. Didn't look back. Outside, the sun was setting. Daniel waited in the car. He searched my face. What did he say? He asked. The truth, I replied. He nodded. And he asked. And he's smaller than his damage, I said. That night, the confession went public. Walter's voice. Recorded. Unedited. The internet did what it always does. It devoured. Sympathy evaporated. Outrage replaced it. Evelyn testified the next morning. Names were named. Patterns exposed. Systems questioned. By evening, The world had moved on to the next outrage. But we hadn't. At home, Lila sat with me at the table. Quiet. She held a letter. What's that? I asked. From Walter, she said. To the children. I nodded. Will you give it to them? I asked. She shook her head. Not yet, she said. I want them to remember who they are before they learn who he was. I smiled sadly. That's wise, I said. My phone buzzed. One final notification. Video scheduled. Final release. 24 hours. Daniel looked at me. This is it, he said. I nodded. Yes, I said. And after, he asked. I stared out the window. At the quiet, I said. But inside, something stirred. Because one truth still hadn't been spoken. One box unopened. One name unaccounted for. And as the night settled, I realized, endings don't always close doors. Sometimes they unlock the next one. The final video went live at exactly 9 a.m. No countdown. No warning. Just truth. Raw. Unfiltered. I watched it alone. Not because I was afraid of witnesses, but because some endings deserve privacy. The screen lit up with my own face. Older. Calmer. Unflinching. My name is Nana May, the woman on the screen said. I am 74 years old, and everything you think you know about betrayal is incomplete. I didn't cry. I had already cried all the tears that belonged to Walter. This video wasn't for him. It was for me, for the women who would recognize themselves between my sentences, for the children who would learn too late that love without honesty is not protection. As the video continued, my phone began to vibrate. I ignored it. I watched myself explain how silence isn't consent, how patience isn't forgiveness, how survival sometimes looks like compliance. I explained the wills, the lies, the way men mistake endurance for ignorance. When the video ended, the house felt different, lighter, like it had exhaled something poisonous. I sat still for a long time. Then the doorbell rang. Once. I knew who it was. Daniel. He stood on the porch with his phone in his hand, eyes wide. It's everywhere, he said. Yes, I replied. It would be. They're calling it historic, he said. They're calling you brave. I snorted softly. They'll call me bitter tomorrow, I said. Sit. He sat. I watched it, he said. All of it. I nodded. And I asked. I don't know how you stayed, he said quietly. I poured tea. I didn't, I said. I endured. There's a difference. His phone buzzed again. My siblings are asking questions, he said. Hard ones. I met his eyes. Answer honestly, I said. And stop where protection begins. He nodded, then hesitated. There's something you didn't say, he said. I didn't respond. You mentioned one last secret, he continued. But you didn't reveal it. I sipped my tea. Because some truths don't belong to the public, I said. Who do they belong to, he asked. I looked at him. The person who paid the cost, I said. That afternoon, Lila came over. She looked steadier than before. Still wounded, but upright. The children watched it, she said softly. My chest tightened. And I asked. They asked why he didn't choose us, she whispered. I closed my eyes. What did you say? I asked. I told them, she said, voice breaking, that some people don't choose families, they choose reflections. I nodded slowly. That was kind, I said. She swallowed. I don't hate you, she added. I know, I replied. And I don't want anything from you, she continued. Not money. Not answers. I studied her. Then what do you want? I asked. She hesitated. Peace, she said. I smiled gently. Peace comes later, I said. First comes clarity. She nodded. As she left, my phone rang again. This time I answered. Evelyn. Her voice was thinner. You didn't expose everything, she said. No, I replied. You could still destroy me, she said. Yes, I said. Why didn't you, she asked. I thought about it. Because my victory doesn't require your ruin, I said. She exhaled shakily. You're a dangerous woman, she said. I smiled. Only to people who mistake control for power, I replied. That night, I opened the last envelope, the one I had sealed decades ago. Inside was a letter, not from Walter, from myself, written after surgery, written when survival was uncertain. If you are reading this, it began, it means you lived. My hands trembled. Do not waste this life being quiet for comfort, it continued. If they betray you, let them see you standing. Tears finally came, not for loss, for recognition. The next morning, I visited Walter one last time. He looked up when he saw me. Hope flickered. I saw the video, he said. Yes, I replied. You didn't say my name, he said. No, I said. I let your actions do that. He swallowed. Is there anything left, he asked. Anything you haven't taken? I leaned forward. Yes, I said. He looked hopeful. Your memory, I continued. I'm done carrying it. His face collapsed. I loved you, he whispered. I stood. You loved being needed, I said. And when I didn't need you, you replaced me. I turned to leave. Nana, he called. What happens now? I paused. Now, I said, I live. I walked out. That evening, Daniel joined me on the porch. The world's moving on, he said. Yes, I replied. And you, he asked. I watched the sun dip low. I'm staying, I said. In my house. In my name. In my story. He nodded. There's one more thing, he said. I turned. What? I asked. The lawyer found something, he said. An account Walter never accessed. I raised an eyebrow. And? I asked. It was opened in your name, he said. 40 years ago. I smiled. I know, I said. He blinked. You knew, he asked. Yes, I replied. Why didn't you touch it, he asked. I looked at the horizon. Because it wasn't for survival, I said. It was for after. He stared at me. After what, he asked. I stood. After silence, I said. And as the night settled, I felt it. The end approaching. Not with fear, but with intention. Because the final chapter wasn't about revenge. It was about what I would build next. And that choice was still mine. The morning after the truth, the world felt oddly polite. Too polite. People smiled at me like I was fragile glass. Neighbors waved like they were afraid to ask questions. Strangers sent messages that began with, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but pain makes people curious. Survival makes them uncomfortable. I woke before dawn. The house was silent. Not empty, settled. I padded into the kitchen barefoot. The floor was cold. Familiar. Mine. For the first time in decades, nothing in this house belonged to Walter. Not the walls. Not the air. Not even the memories. I brewed coffee slowly, deliberately, because endings deserve rituals. As the kettle hissed, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from the lawyer. All documents are finalized. Once signed, there is no reversal. I stared at the screen. Good. I dressed carefully. A soft blue blouse. Pearls. Lipstick. Not for youth, but for clarity. I looked in the mirror. My name is Nana May, I said aloud. I am 74 years old. And I am done asking permission. The lawyer's office was quiet. Too quiet for something this final. Daniel sat beside me, restless. You don't have to do this today, he whispered. I smiled gently. Yes, I said. I do. The lawyer slid the papers toward me. This will dissolve all remaining marital claims, she said. It transfers ownership immediately. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. Once signed, she continued, you walk away from everything tied to Walter Grant. I nodded. That's the point, I said. Daniel swallowed. This means no inheritance disputes, he said. No public leverage. I looked at him. Leverage is what kept me trapped, I said. I'm choosing freedom. I signed. One page. Then another. Then the last. The pen clicked softly when I set it down. And just like that, 52 years ended without a scream. Outside, Daniel stopped me. Mom, he said, there's something I need to ask. I turned. If it's about forgiveness, I said gently, don't. He shook his head. No, he said. It's about you. I waited. What are you going to do now? He asked. The question everyone had been circling. I smiled. I already did it, I said. That afternoon, the announcement went out. Not a press release. A transfer of ownership. The house. The land. The properties. All of it. Donated. Not to family. Not to charity with a board full of men like Walter. But to a trust. The May Foundation. Dedicated to women who outlived their silence. The internet erupted again. People were confused. Angry. Inspired. Why give it away? Why not keep what you earned? Is this another performance? I didn't answer, because the final act wasn't for them. That evening, I invited Lila and the children over. They sat stiffly on the couch. Uncertain, I placed the box on the table. The same box from my birthday, the one Walter thought was forgiveness. This is for you, I said. Lila hesitated. Inside were documents, education funds, homes secured, names listed, not as secrets, but as acknowledgments. I didn't know, she whispered. I did, I said softly. And I chose not to punish the innocent. The children looked up at me. Are you mad at Grandpa? One asked. I knelt slowly. I am disappointed, I said. But anger would keep him alive inside me. They nodded, not fully understanding. That was okay. Some lessons wait. After they left, the house felt vast. Not lonely, just open. I walked into the bedroom. Walter's side was empty. I opened the drawer. At the bottom, beneath old ties and folded regrets, was something unexpected. A photograph. Me, young, laughing, before endurance replaced joy. I sat on the bed and finally allowed myself to grieve. Not him, but her. The woman who stayed too long because she believed love meant patience. I forgive you, I whispered to the photograph. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams, just rest. The next morning, I received a call from the prison. Walter had requested to see me. I declined. Then another call. He had collapsed. Non-fatal, but final. He wanted to speak. One last time. I considered it. Then I sent a message instead. I released you. Do the same. He never replied. A week later, the world moved on. Another scandal. Another headline. Another woman's pain turned into content. But something else happened quietly. Letters arrived. Handwritten. From women older than me. Younger than me. Women who said, I left. I spoke. I stayed, but differently. And then one final envelope. No return address. Inside was a single sentence. He had another child. She's looking for you. My heart didn't race. It didn't break. It simply opened. I folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the envelope, and smiled, because some stories don't end. They expand.